you. Whenever I hear that, the introduction, I'm like, oh my gosh, even sometimes I'm like, how in the world did I do all that? Um, but I have been an actor for about 20 years, and continue to hone and craft my artistry in all different kinds of ways. And one of the things that I've realized in this journey of my artistry is that advocacy and art, you can't separate them, especially as a Black woman in this country. I always have been doing this kind of work, and now that I am part of an arts administration team, that I'm able to actually have a greater impact as best as I can with the time that I will be at this space. So I feel very honored to be here today to meet all of you for the first time, and hopefully. This will engage you a little bit more with Salt Lake Acting Company, with myself, and just the arts community in general here in Salt Lake City and in Utah in general. So give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now that I'm relearning how to do it, which is pretty fun to visit this again. So give me one moment. All right. So this is Salt Lake Acting Company. This is our really, really beautiful building, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this is what it looks like.
Orthodox Church.
Yeah, yes. And we sometimes it's called like the Onion Dome building. A lot of people will stop by and come into the building and be like, "What is this?" And we'll be like, "We're a theater company." Because despite what it looks like and the beautiful outside, you'll walk in and you'll see like very modern. We have leopard carpet and colorfulness
Oh,
inside that you'll be surprised to see. If you ever want to come and visit or take a tour of the space, just reach out to me. But we are Salt Lake Acting Company. We are in the Marmalade District, and we have been embedded in the community for 50 plus years. We are currently in our 53rd season. We are about to open up our last show of this season, which is called, if it's a long title, Slack Summer Show, The Real Wives, The Real Wives of the Salt Lake Hive. And basically, it's our musical satire about what's happening in Utah, basically, the quirkiness of Utah. And then also, what's happening in our country currently. And so I always say if people are looking for a space of catharsis, this is the show to come to, and we are the space to come to as well. So a lot of people know Salt Lake Acting Company. So instead of calling us by our full name, they actually end up calling us Slack, which is true. Oftentimes when people find out that I work for Salt Lake Acting Company, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love Slack." And I'm like, well, if you're calling us Slack, then we know you as a friend, not just as like somebody coming to the theater, which is a really cool thing about Salt Lake Acting Company. As mentioned before, yes, my name is Latoya Cameron, she, her. I'm the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Dramaturg. I am an audience relationship outreach person and then also a part of the communications team. We are a nonprofit arts organization, which means that we all wear many, 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 many hats. um, Oftentimes people will be like, that's a lot of work. And I'm like, well, when you're in nonprofit arts, it really is about a lot of passionate artists and a lot of people who are passionate about the art coming together to sustain the impact of storytelling in our community. And so, although it might seem like a lot, everyone is sharing a lot of a similar load of work, so we can continue to be here. Salt Lake Acting Company runs on donations, ticket sales, and grants. And then also we have subscribers, which is basically our backbone of the theater company. We had subscribers be with us since the start of Salt Lake Acting Company, so like for 50 years. And then we have newer ones that are just coming out of college. So we have a variety of different audience members that come and participate in Slack. We are a professional theater company, which means we work work with Actors Equity Association, which is the Actors and Stage Management Union. We pay weekly, which means that we pay our actors, we pay our directors, our crew members, our set builders, our painters, our designers, which is our costume designers, our lighting designers, and our set designers. And then we pay for our full staff. And then we have a full company board that we communicate with, and that provide us with insight. And we are a very small team. It's about, I believe, 10 of us. 10 of us are full-time staff members. So my history with Slack has been a long one. So I've known about Slack for years. When I was in college, I did a whole lot of research because I was very passionate and driven to know about what the art scene looked like after college. And Salt Lake Acting Company was one of the first things that popped up. And I was like, well, I got to work at that theater company. I got to figure out how to get involved. And for years, I auditioned and had to come back again. I would get a call back, but wouldn't get cast in the show. And I was like, I'm determined to get into this beautiful space because I really enjoyed their storytelling. And so eventually, finally, that happened in 2014. So that was my first play with them, which was the now renamed Saturday's Warrior. Back in those days, now it's called Slack Summer Show. So that was my first introduction to Slack as an artist. And then I believe in, if you're going to be involved in the arts, it's a passion of mine to know how it all runs. So not just me as a little piece of the puzzle, but the whole puzzle pieces of how a whole theater company does run to impact the community. And so I was like, well, I want to join the front of house. I want to be a part of that team. And so I was hired on, and essentially what front of house is basically those lovely people that come in when you come to the theater, and they come to you and say, hi, thank you so much for coming to the theater. The box office is over here. If you have your ticket, I'll scan your tickets. The theater's upstairs. Here's your program. This is the lay of the land kind of thing. And then we clean up and we go home. I loved doing that because I got to meet a whole lot of beautiful, lovely people who are other young artists, older artists, people who are just passionate about theater, and also just a different side of what creating art looks like. It's not always about what's happening on the stage. It also happens immediately when you walk into the theater. And so it was lovely to be a part of the first interactions of someone's experience at the theater. Then I joined the team as a full-time staff, a part of their arts administration team back in 2021. And then I continue to be with them now. So I've been there about 5, almost 6 years as that. And then my first, outside of acting, my first co-directing happened this last year with another co-director. His name is Tito Olivas, and we directed a show called Whitelisted, which was the first show of this season. So the beautiful thing about what I love about Salt Lake Acting Company is that when I was hired on, I made it very clear that I'm an artist first, and that it's very important to me to continue that work because it goes along with everything that I do and what I register as my purpose in this world. And the support that I received when I was hired on, I was very surprised by, because most people were like, that's nice, but we need this. But they were like, no, like we are an arts organization, so therefore we want to nurture artists, and this is a great space to be here as an employee and as an artist. And so not only have I continued to act with Salt Lake Acting Company, but for them to give me an opportunity to direct there was in my first professional and working with professional actors, meaning Actors Equity actors, was a really big deal for me in my artistry, and I learned a lot, and I'm grateful for them for allowing me that space and time to learn while doing. All right, so we're going to take a tour of Slack's history. We're going to first start with the founder of Slack. Then we're going to move into our building history, our mission statement, what programs we offer, accessibility. We're going to meet the Slack staff, our contact information, and then we'll end with a Q&A. So first off, Edward, which he would go by Ed, Grayska March 18th, and he passed away in January 15th of 2015. When Ed moved to Utah from Chicago, he went to his first professional theater company show when he moved here because he was an artist, and he was like, well, what does Utah have an art scene? What's going on here? Will I be able to be an actor or a creator here? And when he saw this production at Pioneer Theater Company, he was like, oh wow. He was blown away by the art and the storytelling at that theater company. He goes, okay, I can do some art here. I can make some stuff here. This is a really incredible town and a really incredible state. So when he moved to Chicago to Salt Lake City, quickly found a group of artists and started his journey of making an impact on the community. In the late 1960s, that's when he found Salt Lake Acting Company. And then his goal was to go not necessarily against, but provide a different offering of narration. Since this is a conservative state, he wanted to provide different kinds of pushing the envelope in our thought processes and our consciousness with the storytelling that he provided. So he wanted to go a little bit more edgier. He wanted to invite more premieres for Utah and also new plays into Utah. He's responsible for bringing a lot of famous not world premieres, Utah premieres here, like Hair, the musical, La Caja Falls, Little Shop of Horrors, Angels in America, and so many more. And so actually, the interesting thing about him is that when he was like, well, we should do Hair here in Utah. And when he tried to get, and mind you, at the same time, Hair was on Broadway in New York City. And typically when that happens in the theater world, you can't do that. The rights aren't typically available. But when the creators found out that somebody in Utah wanted to do Hair in Utah, they were like, yeah, let him do it, which is a big deal. And so here in Utah at the same time in New York City, Hair was happening. That story was being shared. And that was pretty incredible. But even like Little Shop of Horrors has a huge, I think there's another production that's happening here in Utah, I think later on this year at a different theater company. But those kinds of stories wouldn't be in possibly could wouldn't would have taken more time to get to the Utah scene if Ed didn't do that back in the 60s, into the 70s, into the 80s. So he's had a massive impact on the art scene here. In the 90s, he was honored by the Salt Lake City Chamber of Commerce for outstanding contributions to Utah's cultural heritage, and his impact continues to have let's say just a lot of people remember Ed as somebody who continues to invite different narrations, different experiences, different stories into our consciousness of Utah. So without him and him finding Salt Lake Acting Company, I don't think that we would have Plan B Theater Company or Pioneer continuing to also be inviting different storytelling and different experiences and backgrounds to the landscape of Utah. I don't think that there would be all these other smaller theater companies that are now doing the same thing without Ed being a catalyst of inviting those kinds of stories into Utah's artist community. So, and everything that he established then is our backbone of what Salt Lake Acting Company is now. So here's a quote by him that he mentioned and talked about. So we were throwing stuff out there that the audience had never heard of. They didn't know what it was, and we educated them. We did the traditional stuff, but we'd always try to do a new play, something very different to balance that out. And I think that got the audiences in, and the audiences grew. I think that Slack was always growing and becoming more and more important to this community, and it still is. Which it is, in my opinion, that without him pushing that envelope, I think that we get a whole lot, which there's nothing wrong with this. There's a reason why there's a whole lot of stories like Little Mermaid, Joseph and the Mason Technicolor Dreamcoat. I can say also, what plays have we seen a lot of importance of being earnest? A whole lot of those stories but without Ed being like, no, we need Little Shop of Horrors, where we're going to talk about um, poverty in a different kind of way. We're going to talk about what it is to talk about the Black experience, the Latino experience, Indigenous experiences, um, queer experiences. Ed was the first one to do that in Salt Lake City. A little bit about Slack's historic home. So that beautiful building that you saw at the very beginning, we weren't always there. So in from 1969 to 1970, Slack's humble beginnings started in a Unitarian church. We actually did a reading this year where we invited the church members at the Unitarian Church to come and see the show because the pastor there wrote a musical, and that we, in our program, the New Play Sounding Series, we were like, well, we want to do the play. And so we did the musical, and a bunch of them came, and we got reunited with that community again of where Slack started, which is really a really cool thing, which we started in a church and now we're back in a church. So I thought that was really kismetic. But then in 1978, Slack moved to the Glass Factory Theater, which no longer is operating. I think it stopped operating back in 1980s. But it called it home for 5 years, and then they eventually returned to the Unitarian Church. And I think at the Unitarian Church, it was like the basement area, down in the basement area where they would do their theater performances. And then now we are at home in the historic 19th Ward House of Worship in the Marmalade District in Salt Lake City. So if you get off of 6 South or 6 North, and then on that overpass, if you go east, you'll pass the Marmalade Library and just keep going up, and you'll see the Onion Dome and this orange rusted building, and that's where we're at, right across the street from the elementary school. And like I said before, if you're ever in that area and you want to take a tour with me, just come on in, and I'd be happy to take you around to come check out our space. Originally built, the building itself was built in 1896 by early settlers with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's 14,000 square feet. It has two performance spaces. The Chapel Theater, which is right in the entrance when you come in, it's right to your left. And that used to be, I think the oh, what was it? It used to be something else of the church, and I can't recall right now, but it sits about 113. It's a very intimate space, and it's around. So you literally, as an actor, can't hide from them, and the audience can't hide from the actors. So if you're trying to hide, we'll be like, we see you. And then there's an upstairs theater that sits about 160 to 206, depending on the production. So we have a couple of different settings. So during our regular season, shows, like the first three shows, it's typically our just regular theater structure that sits about 160. Then for the kids show, we change it a little bit where we can sit about 206 people. So the stage will be here, and we'll have audience here, here, and then in front of the stage as well, and up. So it sits a whole lot more, and a lot of the kids are really, really close, which is really exciting for them to be that ingrained in the story. And then for our summer show, it's a more cabaret setting where we have tables and chairs where people can bring in their food and beverages of their choice to watch the show and enjoy their food and drinks while they watch the performance. So that will sit about 180 when we do that. So it's interesting how the space is interchangeable depending on what the production is and what's the needs of the production, and also how it's designed by our designers. So, and then that's Ed right here, and then that's Nancy, who is a playwright and an actor and was a dear friend of Ed's as well. Okay, a little bit about our mission. So our mission is to engage and enrich community through brave contemporary theater. And these are some of our past productions that we did. So as you saw, Ed was in front of the theater when they moved to Salt Lake Acting Company, that building. And then this was a production called Passing Strange. This is the inside, and it's interesting how it just transforms every time. But you'd think this looks like a massive space, but our space is pretty small. But what we're able to do with it is pretty incredible. This was a world premiere play by Steve Yockey called Mercury. Steve Yockey is an LA-based playwright. He actually also is a screenwriter as well. If you ever heard the show Flight Attendant on HBO Max, that's his work as well. And we have a really, really great close relationship with him. We produced three of his plays at Salt Lake Acting Company, world premiere plays. And now he let us know recently that they are getting published. And so other theater companies can continue to do his work. And that Salt Lake Acting Company will be a part of that publication of us being a part of his journey with that play. So that's pretty cool. This was a play that was produced when Ed was still with us and like running the theater company. And then this is one of our kid shows as well, which I believe it was Elephant and Piggy, Mo Willems, if you know any of his books. He has a whole lot of awesome plays that he changed, not changed, but converted into a musical version so kids can engage with the story in a different way. So um, what does brave and contemporary theater mean to SLAC? So what that means to us is supporting emerging and experienced playwrights by providing workshops to further their new script development. New play development is crucial for the progression of the American theater across the country. So we believe that without new plays, we would become stagnant. Because a lot of the same plays get produced a lot, the ones that everybody knows. But it's important for us to continue the legacy of what Ed brought into Utah, which is Utah premieres and new plays, because those new plays typically have the background of different experiences, different perspectives, different folks' backgrounds. We consciously try to, in our selection of new plays, when we want to produce them, that they are more also women, also people from the queer community, also BIPOC playwrights, so that Utah can be exposed to these different stories versus the ones that we continue to tell in our community. So it's important for us to nurture the new playwrights that are developing their work so that they continue to do that kind of work and be supported. For us, understanding that art of storytelling is our compass and life force in our decision making, remaining authentic and unique in our artistic voice is essential to us. That's what basically Slack started with. Being authentic and unique in our artistry was very important, and that's why we're still here today. So we also prioritize producing plays that enlighten our community by sharing stories that amplify experiences that differ from the majority that reside in Utah while being entertaining. So although we want to consciously push the envelope of narrative in our community, we also want to make sure that it's still entertaining. So it's still theater after all. And so people, if we try to, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Push everything on them and it's not entertaining, then of course they're going to disengage. And so it is important for us to still make the audience aware that this is still an entertaining thing. So we did this show called The Reverticy. It was a world premiere by a playwright called Kathleen Cahill. We've produced about, I think, 8 shows of hers, and she's a really well-known and respected playwright now across America, in American theater. And the play that she wrote, The Reverticy, that was a part of the season, was about the passing of a parent, and the themes was about grief, about healing, and about forgiveness. And now with those themes, automatically you might think that this is going to be a very heavy play, but it was very funny. It was very, very funny and abstract and unique. And a lot of people were laughing and at the end were crying, but they had such a beautiful experience because it was so entertaining, but they still got the message of what the playwright was trying to say. And that's what we try to do. We also strive to remain intimately bold with our play selection, but we don't forget the fun. So why call it a play if we don't play? So that's a big thing for us as theater creators is that if we're calling it a play, then we must play. So we try to strive into not only the fun, not only the entertainment, but also the play aspect of being a artist creator. So our programs at Slack, so I'll talk a little bit about our professional theater program, which is our PTP program, making space for artists, new play sounding series, which I mentioned before, which we also call NPSS, and then our Title I Arts Education program. So our professional theater program for emerging artists, our PTP program, it supports and enhances existing abilities and provides an entry point for aspiring theater professionals to develop meaningful relationships with the community of theater makers that work at SLAC. So we also, along with creating and wanting to produce stories, it is important to us to nurture the future artist creators in our community. So since we are a community-based theater company that we want to still be embedded in the community, and we think it's important to provide opportunities for our young artist creators across the board. We've had young students from high school if a play calls for a high school student, and we will cast them if of course that ends up working out, and then across to like our college students who are looking to continue to put their artistry into practice in a professional setting. So getting pushed, because it's interesting when I worked with students at the University of Utah when I was directing a play there, I was talking to the students, and it was interesting when I asked them questions like, well, what does your character want to do? What are you thinking? And they're like, well, I you really want to know what I'm thinking? And I was like, yes, of course I want to know what you're thinking. Like, you're the person who's going to be acting this character. I can tell you my thoughts, but I'm not the person who's going to embody the character. So it's best to come from you because it keeps it authentic. It keeps it real to you. Because I can tell you what to do for sure, but that's not crafting. And you as a crafter, as an artist, you get to craft that for yourself. And they looked at me in the face and they're like, but I'm not an artist yet. And I was like, what? I was like, no, you're an artist now. Don't wait for the people, my students were waiting for a degree to determine that they were artists now. And I said, that's not the case. You're creating art all the time. So therefore, you're an artist already. So trust yourself. I believe in you. I see you as an artist. So I'm going to honor you as an artist. And what happened in that room when they were told that, it was beautiful to see them take um, ownership of their artistry in that moment. And so that's what Slack does as well. It's like we treat them as artists, not just as students, with an understanding that they are still learning in the moment. However, we do want to still honor them as professional artists now because there's a reason why they're there. There's a reason why we wanted to work with them because we felt like they were ready for the next step. Um, so in this work, and along with that, actually, that before they either go into a college setting or they graduate, they also have connections with other folks who are artists in the community. So if there was like a designer, a future designer who comes and is a part of the PTP program, and we had a beautiful experience with them, we will often hire them back to be like, hey, do you want to take on this show? And they're like, really? And we're like, yeah, we had a great time working with you. We loved your artistry. We would love to hire you for this next production. And so it's stuff like that, not only at Slack, but even at other theater companies. Plan B, we've had some of the PTP program folks work at Pioneer Theater Company, all the way to Cedar City at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. And then in New York City now that are thriving in New York as actors, as designers, and as builders or painters. So it's really beautiful to see that. So it's created for aspiring theater artists to gain work experience in a professional theatrical setting. The PTP nurtures, supports, and develops a community of local professional theater artists and provides a place for students to get real world creative experience, which pushes them in, I think, the most beautiful way, because they get to not think about it, but they get to do it in real time, which is really helpful. And speaking from an artist, uh, when I was a student, I wish that there was a program like this to assist me to understand how I needed to show up in professional spaces. So it's really, once again, really beautiful to see where these students start at the beginning and when the whole production is done, even if you're an actor or a designer or you're running crew or you're building the sets, how changed they are and how they feel empowered to be able to embrace the career and take ownership of their career path. Um, Through the program, more than 200 developing artists have received paid mentorships, both on stage and behind the scenes, and many past participants have moved on to work in the field professionally. And the program supports the education system already established and enhances opportunities between theory and practice across the artistic and skills-based curriculum. And it's cool because even some of the actors that we work with, and also designers we work with, they end up working with their students. So the students get to actually experience their professors in the professional setting, which I think is even cooler to not only learn from your professors, but then get to act with them or get to personally work with them on a design. It's very cool to see how the student becomes now your equal, even though I believe that students are always equals because like we're all doing the same thing. It just we're different spaces and different, experience levels. But at the end of the day, it kind of diffuses that hierarchy kind of approach to artistry, and now they get to just work as collaborators together, which I think is really cool. So that's a little bit, and how to participate in that. It's literally just students will, if you're an actor, students will just audition for the show. And then for designers, sometimes professors, if we hire them from a university, they'll let us know like, hey, we want to invite this design student into this process in the PTP program. So there's that way that they can join. And then also there's like recommendations as well. Like if there's other folks who might be working, let's say if they're not connected to a college, that they're in a community theater setting, then we'll get referrals often as this person who might have been working at a community theater for a while but wants to work in a professional setting. We'll get referrals and we'll reach out and see if they're available to be a part of this program so they can continue their artistry and their development and their growth. So there's multiple ways to join this program, versus it being just always like an educational setting, traditionally the, college setting. So, and then our next program is Making Space for Artists. So I went to a conference in Chicago back in 2023. I think so. Time feels like it all is the same now. But 2023, I went to Chicago to this Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Arts Admin Conference. And there we took a tour of this space, and it was this open kind of artist space where it invited community to come in and either use it as like a studio for visual artists, for a place to practice if they're part of a band. There was also just like community things. So people coming together, if they were like folks who wanted to sew or do yoga or find a space to breathe together and do breathing exercises, this artistic space would open up for that for the community, which I thought was really cool. And when I came back from that conference and I talked to the executive artistic director, Cynthia, I was talking to her about, I'm like, that would be cool. The third space theory where people want to go to these third spaces that aren't just home or work, that it's a place that they can create in or continue their work in or relax in or something, being community at these spaces. And out of that conversation, and I'm sure with other multiple conversations, making space for artists came to be. And it is in the spirit of, because currently with COVID-19, with everything shutting down, that did hurt the arts industry. And we're still trying to build back the audience base that we once had. Um, so we're not using both our spaces. So the chapel that I mentioned, the 113 that sits 113 people, that one's not being used as much as we typically do because we used to run two shows at a time and now we're only doing one at a time, which leaves the chapel space open. And so we were like, well, that conversation about Chicago and then also people wanting to try to find spaces that they can make their own art in, they were having challenges finding affordable spaces to rent. And so out of that came making space for artists, and that was inspired by Slack's spirit of collaboration and commitment to being a resource to our community. We provide equitable support. So if folks can't afford renting the space, if we're not using it, we'll try to accommodate them as best as we can on our end. Through this program, artists are given access to Slack's historical building, a trusted space with guidance and support from Slack staff, the choice of 2 theater spaces, technical equipment, and ticketing services. So everything that we do for our own production, we will provide to the best of our abilities. Usually our chapel space is set up with like a basic lighting system. We'll teach them how to use the sound system and the lighting system so they can design their own space. They can rehearse in this space. We've had folks from dance organizations to theater creators to cabaret shows to curated pieces. It's been beautifully all fundraisers. It's been all over, which has been really, really cool to see the different audiences that would participate in coming to the theater to see those shows specifically. Not only our subscribers and our patron base would come to participate, but also new folks would come to Slack for the first time to see these new interesting stories that are being shared in our community. So these are some of the past shows that we supported that were in our space. So this was one of the really, really cool shows where someone is invited to come into the space and they don't read the script. There's no rehearsal, there's nothing. And they go on stage, they pick up the script, and the play starts. And we watch this person work through the play. And it talks about some political things that are happening in the world and how this person responds to it as they in real time basically, and also the audience gets to experience that through them, which makes it easier for us to step in the shoes of the person and feel what they're feeling as well. So it was a really, really cool experience to see. Clybourne Elder is a Utah actor, well, Utah resident, but now he's a Broadway actor in New York City, and he's also in The Gilded Age on HBO Max, but he's Utah grown. So he came home for a little bit and he was like, hey, I would love to do a cabaret. Do you have a space that I might be able to do that? And he has worked at Slack in the past before, so we've had a relationship long before he became a Broadway star. And we were like, well, yeah, we do have our space if you'd like to use it. So he did a one-man show about his experience of being a queer LDS man and how he discovered himself and started his family and his career. And it was a really beautiful, successful show. And then the Turnaway play was a play about women's reproductive rights and raising funds for for Planned Parenthood. And then Radiant Vermin was a collaboration with not only Salt Lake Acting Company and Making Space for Artists, but Flying Bobcat and also University of Utah students. And it was talking about houseless folks and gentrification and elitism. And it was really, really impactful and powerful play told by university students. And then Sankofa was the Utah Black Artist Collective story about what it is to be Black in Utah, a queer Black person, a religious LDS Black person, and all the beautiful things of what it is to be a Black human in this world. And it was a collaboration with Slack and UBlack, and I was honored enough to be able to be a part of that process and direct it. And then our new play sounding series. So our new play sounding series is basically what I mentioned before, where we take new plays and we nurture them and we provide a space for the playwright to continue their development of their piece that they are working on. So new play sounding series, or NPSS, provides support for playwrights and create additional working opportunities for local theater artists. It also affords our audience the opportunity to witness plays in their earliest stages, giving access to the creative process of new play development. Along with that, it's really, really cool when we do this. We usually will do about 3 to 4 readings a year, and some of our patrons, that's the only thing that they want to come to. It's a free offering to the community. So when tickets are out, we try to get as many people as we can in. It's a one night kind of thing. So the workshop itself, it's about 10 to 20 hour rehearsal process. And then you get a few hours for tech, and then you put it up in front of the audience. And the audience gets to come and see it for one night. And then after it's done, there's a Q&A process with the playwright to talk about the play, what things worked, what things didn't work for the audience. And it's all beautiful and wonderful information for the playwright to continue to move forward after that process with us. So this program started back in 1994. This has nurtured emerging and established playwrights alike in the development of their new work. So like Steve Yockey, local playwrights, Julie Jensen, she's a legend across American theater, Elaine Jarvik, Kathleen Cahill, a lot of awesome playwrights have come through the new play sounding series and worked with us to develop their plays. The program creates a constructive, low-risk arena for artists to navigate the challenges that come with writing and developing new plays. So we provide a space for them to just focus on their craft. And it's hard to do that when the world is always going. And so during that time, we're like, whatever you need, here, do you want to be in the space to write? Do you want the actors to be in the space to write? Do you want to do that in real time? Like, they have full control over what is needed for them to continue their development of their play. So they're really the person in charge of this work and the workshop and everything. Through the new play sounding series, or NPSS, Slack has provided professional resources for the artistic development of over 100 new plays. The development of new scripts is always done with the long-term goal of readying the play for full productions, and nearly 50% of the plays read in the new play sounding series have gone on to be fully produced as part of Slack's regular season, published for the professional market, and or produced at other regional theaters in Utah and around the country. So this, like I mentioned before, this type of work is so essential to the development of the American theater, and not only the American theater, but theater around the world. And this is one of our most important offerings because we do often produce those plays from this program, where if we've had such a beautiful experience, our audience was super engaged, and when you know it's a play is about to take off, you get a lot from the audience when they just stay. Most of the time, if they are like, okay, that was fun, they'll typically, most of them leave. But when the majority stays because they want to engage with the playwright and the play, then typically that's ones that were like, maybe we should pay attention to that and maybe we should potentially produce that in our next season. And so it's a really beautiful way to be in communion with our community, with our patrons, and with these artists and their plays and how they work. So one of those plays was Whitelisted. Whitelisted was written by Chisa Hutchinson. It was developed in the New Play Sounding series back in, I want to say, 2022 or 2023. I can't recall. But Chisa, we've done a play of hers before. I think that was also a Utah premiere back in 2017. She is a Black female playwright. She lives in New York City. And this play was all about New York gentrification, about white privilege. And it was done in the genre of horror. So, and doing horror on stage was, was a beautiful challenge. And I think that her play, when they did it in the New Play Sounding series, had such an impactful um, experience with the audience that it was an instant yes for us to want to produce it in our next season. So it was directed by myself and Tito Levis. That's Tito right there, and there's me looking like a happy person. And then this is our beautiful cast and crew that helped make all of this happen. And some of our folks, our designers, are not in the picture, but they are definitely on in the creation of our set and the creation of the artistry that we were able to make. So, and this is a scene from one of the scary moments in the play, and then this is some of the actors that are portraying in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this clip. So please just know if there is language in it. Um, so if you want to not engage with it, please don't hesitate to disengage. But it does have some adult language. But this is a little clip from that show.
We can't hear it.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh, wonder how I can make it play. How do you do sound?
I think when you do the share screen, there's like two little square boxes on the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and you have to click on those to get
The audio.
yeah, but that's clear back on. You'd probably have to stop share
Uh-huh.
and then do share, and then at the bottom, there's two little boxes that you have to click on to enhance the audio when you're showing a video.
Oh, okay. Let me try that. Give me 1 second. Oh, then I don't know if you'll be able to see it. What I'll do, I'm gonna grab the clip and I'll put it in here. And then you said there's a square on the bottom that, let's see.
When you do share screen, you then it has a couple of options at the very bottom. There are two little tiny square
Dot.
box that say uh, click here to enhance the audio when you're showing a video. I think they're just tiny
Oh,
boxes.
let's see. Media advanced sharing option? No. Okay. I don't know if I'm doing that right.
Yeah.
Well, I will still show it and then I will talk about it if it's
Okay.
helpful. Give me one more
We are
second.
we are running a little bit over
Oh,
time.
wow.
Okay.
That
Just so
was a
you
lot longer than I
know.
thought.
Okay.
Well, then
Yeah.
what I'll do, I'll share the clips and
Okay.
then on your own time, if you want to engage with it, then please, please do. And if not, no worries. But it's a really, really beautiful production that was funny and also moving as well. I'll move
Okay.
this along. So we do a Title I arts education program. What that does is that it's Charter 1 schools that we bring to the theater for free to come and see a children's show. Like I mentioned before, it's typically a book that's made into a musical, so the children engage in reading and engage in storytelling in a different kind of way with the books that they already love. And we usually bring in over 2,000 students, 10 different schools. Most of them are from the West Side to come, and it's usually their first time to be able to see the theater and to be exposed to what theater does. And so it's one of our greatest things that we provide in December of each year. And so last year we did Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. These are the actors. This is by Mo Willems, if you haven't read the play. And these are all the students that come and see the show, and look how engaged they are. They're just having the best time. And a lot of them are students of color that come to the theater for the first time. And then, of course, we have our accessibility at Slack. So we do offer different programs. We did a huge capital campaign back in 2021 to raise $1 million to basically restructure our building to make it more accessible for mobility purposes and for those in our disability community. And so now we offer ASL interpretive performances, open caption, sensory friendly performances, and then we have a whole lot of devices that assist with making the theater experience way more accessible to those a part of the community, and also just for anybody who might be navigating something physically or just neat or hard of hearing or visually have some challenges seeing the theater or seeing performances and stuff. So we offer that as well too, and we have an accessibility coordinator, a part of the team. This is our beautiful team. So this is Cynthia Fleming. She's our executive artistic director, and these are the executive staff members. And then this is also us. So this is Emily, our accessibility coordinator. We work closely together often. And then these are also our other staff members as well. We are the senior staff. Here's our information about us, where we're at, our phone number, and everything. So if you ever want to contact us or just have questions, please don't feel afraid to contact me personally or just us in general. This is our next play that opens next week. It's our political satire. If you're looking for catharsis, everyone in this group can use the code HIVE, HIVE online if you want to come, and you'll get a discount on tickets if you'd like to participate. Since you let me come and be a part of your community, come be a part of mine as well. And that's it. Thank you so much for letting me be here and talk a lot about what we do. I sincerely appreciate the time.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's a great presentation. A lot of information, a lot of great information there as well. I particularly like the Title I program as well. I like all programs, but I kind of have a special place in my heart for the Title I programs. My daughters went to Jackson Elementary over here on the west side as well.
Mm.
So that's pretty cool as well. I'll open it up for questions, from comments from the membership.
I just wanted to briefly mention, you took us, my husband was listening, you took us a little bit down memory lane. He was he was a student at the PMT in the 60s. And he was part of the theater scene here between about 67 and 1979. And never really worked with Slack, although he did do a show at the Unitarian Church, but he couldn't remember who he was working for at the time. But he did all kinds of theater here, community theater here during those years. And it was a small community, so everybody knew each other. He knew Ed Griska, he knew the Morganics. But I wanted to mention there was a small theater called Theater 138. And in the early 70s, they did a production of The Boys in the Band. And my husband was part of that production. And they had to do that like after hours. But it was amazing in that time, the audience they got. A lot of parents of gay young men who didn't know what to do. And so they came to this production. So that was a very interesting experience. But anyway, it was just really fun to hear you're talking about those years because my husband was here actively working in that community.
Cool.
Awesome.
So just a comment, Latoya, thank you for sharing the history and all the programs that SLAC has been doing. I think I've been going to SLAC plays for almost 3 decades just because it's outside of the box. I will certainly miss Saturday's Voyeur and looking forward to, see how you all move forward with that.
Come see Slack Summer Show. It's basically essentially the same, just different writers, but we definitely have heard from a lot of our community members that they miss it dearly, and we miss it as well. So, and Gloria, thank you so much for sharing that. That's so beautiful to know. I always say a theater artist is always an artist forever. So the impact that your husband made as well lives in all of us. So thank you for sharing that too.
Well, thank you. We spent the next 20 years in New York City. That's why it was 67 to 79, and then we went to New York in 1980, and he worked there for about 10 years.
Okay.
But the company experience, because that's who he worked for mainly, companies here, because he was lucky enough to work with a company in New York, and it was, for him that was a really great experience. So, but anyway, yeah, that was just a lot of really, a lot of memories of Utah back then.
So how do you select your plays and like for the future, like the next upcoming season or whatever? Do you take suggestions from the community? Would you take suggestions from us? And then also relatedly, do you recruit actors? Like say, for instance, if you had a Latinx themed a production, would you be recruiting from yeah, I heard the University of Utah students mentioned quite often. So would you recruit people from the community as well?
Oh, yeah. So the cool thing about, even though we're a professional theater company, our audition process is open to everybody. So I always say to folks who are interested in getting involved as an actor, any level, it's always informative. Any kind of level, if you have, it's amazing to experience those who have never acted before and how incredibly raw they are and authentic. Sometimes we'll just like that's the character and that's the person we will bring them in because we want to work with them. And so I'm like, get on our actors list. And you will receive all of our information of like future auditions. If notifications come out, you directly get them. Also, yeah, we do recruit like a lot of folks for like whitelisted. We reached out to a lot of different folks in the community to come in because we did have 2 Black female actors that we were looking for, and then also we needed a Latin male to be in the show as well. And so that's why they brought in myself as a director and Tito as a director. So we both had the intersectional different cultures that are coming into the story. And so we pulled from a lot of different folks of who he knew, who I knew, and then also artists that already just knew about the audition process would come in. So we're an open book. We love when new faces and new talent come into our space because it's incredible the kind of talent that we have here across the board. Those who have been doing it for years and those who are just barely starting. It's pretty incredible. So yes, 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 yes.
And what about like the selection of plays?
We typically, so since we do contemporary work, anything that's like within the 5 year span, from now until what was 5 years ago, I guess 2020, basically. Oof. But we look at those years, and sometimes we'll look past it as if it has very still contemporary themes. We'll get suggestions from community members as well, and we'll check them out. I'm not a part of the selection process, but as their EDI dramaturg, I'll read the plays just to be cognizant of the themes and the casting, and being conscious about, um, since we are in a predominantly white state, what type of stories will just perpetuate the narrative that is already out there, that isn't progressing the communities that the play is talking about, or if it's essential to the crafting of change in the narrative, then I will also bring that out as well. And we'll discuss our plays in that way as well to also select them. But we read them. And if it resonates with our artistic executive director, she'll hold those and do like a good couple of reads to see if it's something that hits her, and then she'll give it to myself and a few other staff members, and then we'll select in that kind of way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions and comments for Latoya? Okay. Again, thank you so much. I probably will be in touch with you sooner or later, and maybe others as well. But I'm going to try to get some more information from you as well. Okay.
Yes, please do. I'd be happy to send over
Okay.
some information about our
Okay.
kids show as well. So
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much.